on tonight's episode of 60 Minutes.
Hello, and welcome back to 60 Minutes. Once again, I'm Megan Geary.
And I'm Shay Manley.
We returned to Poland at the time of the Cold War, where an Iron Curtain had been drawn across Europe, the Soviet Union, or the USSR.
As previously discussed, the Yalta Conference ensured that Poland would undergo democratic elections, but they were controlled by the Polish communists. The election law allowed the government to remove over 500,000 people from the list of those eligible for voting, under false accusations of collaboration with the Nazis.
Over 80,000 members of the Polish People's Party were arrested under various false charges in the month preceding the election, and around 100 of them were murdered by the Polish secret police.
Candidates and activists were persecuted until the very day of the election, and the publicized results were forged. The real results not known to anyone because most of the ballot boxes simply destroyed even before being counted and exchanged with ballot boxes filled with prepared votes. The opposition itself estimated that it should have received 80% of the votes if the elections were not rigged and the voters were not persecuted. Because of the rigged elections, the communists won the elections. Over the coming years, communists would ensure their rise to power by monopolizing political power in Poland. And now we have special guests on 60 Minutes. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Dora Michnikowski and Kaliev Punchki, who lived in communist Poland. Hello.
Thank you.
Hello.
So you guys really lived during the riots, didn't you?
Yes, the riots of 1956. Poland tried to revolt and gain freedom from our country. Polish workers began to riot in 1956 in order to gain more freedom. The working standards were poor, the wages were low. Poland was much weaker than the Soviet Union and lived in fear of the Red Army. The labor unions were also disliked by the government and were eventually stopped. Gomulka compromised with Khrushchev and assured him that Poland would remain in the Warsaw Pact.
By the 1960s, he grew increasingly authoritarian, conservative, and economically incompetent. Poland tried to push for a better economy and for industrialization, but under the communist rule, it was difficult, and the economy and industrialization suffered.
The workers decided that they needed to gain freedom, so the workers turned to the church in order to destroy the Soviet regime. Workers gained support from the church and organized a non-violent way to oppose the Soviets. Demonstrating docker workers set fire to edifice KWPCPR on Soldiers Square.
On 17 December 1970, desperate dockyard workers left their place of work and marched towards city center and the provincial party committee. Riots, which were started there, ended up with setting fire to the building. Bullets killed first participants of demonstration. Policemen and agents of SB were shooting wild. This event led to the firing of Laszlo Gomulka. He was replaced by Edward Gierek. The Polish hoped that through the struggle, they would eventually gain their independence from the Soviet Union.
Wow, your life sucked. Okay, we're done.
In 1956, dozens of Soviet tanks guard the street intersection in Poland. The uprising in Poland's northern cities was the first widespread demonstration of growing the anti-communist sentiment that eventually led to the birth of the Solidarity of Opposition movement. The government announced it was stopping food subsidies. Ordinary people already struggling in the harsh economic conditions saw food prices rocket by up to 60%. For the first time, workers in Poland organized strike committees and marched on the local Communist Party headquarters in protest. Chaos ensued as the army was sent in and given orders to stop workers returning to the factories in Poland, because the government feared attempts at mass sabotage. Demonstrations and violence then spread to nearby cities. The special forces were sent in to put down the unrest using force. The August strikes, which were organized all over Poland, started something new. It was something stronger and more determined. This new social movement was named Solidarity, and its characteristic logo, not leaving the shadow of doubt what to one's origin, for 10 years became a thorn and remorse for communists. For the rest of the Polish men, solidarity was a hope that the transformations would come. It was only a matter of time.
Wow, powerful stuff. I think the main lesson we can learn from the Cold War, and specifically Soviet consolidation of power in Poland, is that it was forceful and manipulative in nature, and to some extent was effective in controlling Eastern European satellite states, although it had repercussions of violent riots and death.
That was really profound, Megan.
Thanks.
Well, that concludes our today's episode of 60 Minutes. See you next time.